you see that Trenton was voted?
We are recording,
there.
folks. Yeah, and so definitely we should make a road trip to Camden, scope it out. I think we may find
I want a
nice...
Camden cheesesteak.
Yeah, we're gonna hang out there and see if we like it, and if we like it, we're gonna get a pied-à-terre in Camden, New Jersey, overlooking the Delaware River and the city of Philadelphia.
Well, you're kidding.
Abram, I have an idea. This is my pitch. This idea on the Camden trip.
Okay.
We'll sublet our apartments for a couple months. We'll get a place in Camden, and we'll finish Cuddle. And I think we will finish Cuddle because the crime rate in Camden is
we won't want to
leave.
We won't want to leave the apartment.
We're going to hold each other out of fear.
Okay.
I was going to say Camden. It's worse than Detroit.
Yep.
All
so
right.
I don't know if you were being serious.
Yeah, it's worse than Detroit. But it's getting better. It's getting better, guys. Okay. So, greetings and welcome to Obscuria Filmcast. Our host today is going to be Judy. And
hello, everybody.
And in case you don't know, if you've never seen this show before, this is a show where we just talk about weird movies. So if you like weird movies, and you want to hear about the one that we're doing today, which is
High Spirits. It's a 1988 mystery thriller comedy. I would like to say it's horror, but it's really not. When I watched it, it was a little bit horrifying for me at the age of 10 or 12. But anyway, you can find it on Tubi for free if you don't mind commercials.
I watched it on Tubi for free.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch it and then come back and discuss it with us, then
I think I would recommend watching the preview for this movie, then watching the movie, and then coming back, because the preview I think explains why they even missold this movie. Like you need to see it.
Actually, I haven't seen it. I'm gonna check it out.
So so if you've already seen it, then great, chill with us. If you haven't seen it and you don't care and you just want to hear us talk about it, that's cool too.
Yeah. So the little blurb about the movie is Irish hotelier Peter Plunkett, played by Peter O'Toole, attempts to fill the chronic vacancies at his castle by launching an advertising campaign that wrongly portrays the property as haunted. Unfortunately, he fails to scare a single American tourist with his hokey and dreadfully unconvincing effects. When two actual ghosts, Mary, Daryl Hannah, and Martin, played by Liam Neeson, a young Liam Neeson, show up to add some authenticity, they end up falling for two guests, Sharon, played by Beverly D'Angelo, and Jack, played by none other than Steve Guttenberg. Yes. Okay, so I picked this movie. This movie was also made for, I think, about 15 million, and it grossed 8. So it has a Rotten Tomatoes critics view of 27% and an audience score of 58%. Okay, so I picked this movie because I have fond memories of watching it when I was maybe middle school age-ish. I'm gonna say, I don't remember. And it had just that right blend of like being scary, a little bit sexy. You know, they talk about the snakes in Ireland, and there's like Jennifer Tilly like in lingerie,
and there's a sex scene.
Yes, there's a sex scene. So it was like I was allowed to watch the movie. So it was like a little bit risque, like a little bit scary with like the ghost, but not quite. Watching it as an adult was a little bit of a different experience. I was like, wow, this movie's really cheesy. But I think I also love it because I have those fond memories of watching it when I was young. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. My husband thinks that I should be off of the show permanently. He said that this is a terrible pick, incling the last pick. So maybe I'll have to talk to him about it.
You know, we say that to the great Mr. Baker, to Mrs. Judy Meyer, we say that, where's your movie?
Yes.
It does have Steve Guttenberg.
So what do you guys say?
I mean,
first of all, I was in an acting class with Mr. Steve Guttenberg.
How was he? Was he nice? Was he a nice guy?
He was so nice. In fact, he was so nice that about 2 hours ago, I was like, he gives you that feeling that if I sent him an email right now, because I have his email still, dear Mr. Guttenberg, I'm sorry, I didn't think of this, but if you're free in 2 hours and you want to be a special guest, come on by. Because Steve Guttenberg worked on Macbeth, which must be amazing because he's in this movie with Peter O'Toole, who did the world's worst Macbeth, the Macbeth that the curse didn't even show up on. Steve Guttenberg did Macbeth in this with Rob Clare, watching. And he was in the elevator with me, and he's bulked up a lot. Like
he's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's in good shape.
He was
He also
on
looks
Dancing with the
puffy in the face.
I think maybe there's something going on. Anyway, maybe a health thing. I don't know.
I hope he's okay because I really like him.
I think he's always had a puffy face though, so maybe it's just. I mean, I look puffy.
He's just gotten older.
When I lived,
and he bulked up.
He bulked up.
So one day, my friend Tanya and I was like, "What scene should I do?" And she's like, "Do something from like I don't know, Macbeth with Steve Guttenberg." And I was like, "With Steve Guttenberg?" And she's like, "The big guy who was in the elevator with us, who said hi so nicely." And I was like, "Holy shit!" And then the next week, he went, "Guys, can I talk to everyone?" And I was like, "Okay." So we're all looking at Steve Guttenberg, and I'm thinking like, "Wow, he was in Cocoon, man. He was in Boys for Brazil."
Police
like,
Academy.
Wow. I never watched 3 Men and a Baby, Short
Three
Circuit.
Men and a Little Lady too.
3 Men and a Baby, yeah.
And
Short
3 Men and a Lady.
A Little Lady.
Yeah, Little Lady, yeah. So anyway,
Legend.
he looked at us. I swear to God, he gathers around like we're talking to each other, and he's like, "Do you guys know any Shakespeare festivals or places this summer?" Because it was already May. That are doing, plays that might have parts in it for me. Not anything too big, but something, that would be decent for me. Not have to, if you guys hear about it, could you reach out to me? And I was like, wow, this guy is cool. And
he's super humble.
Nice. Yeah.
Really,
he might as well. He could be Mercutio. Meet some new people.
He like just strikes me as like, and there were a lot of people like that in this film. He strikes me as like one of those guys that just like really likes to act.
Yeah.
He just likes what he does.
And for those of you who don't know, this guy who is so nice, okay, in the 80s, which was all about making money and cocaine and big films with cocaine and money. That was what the 80s films were all about. This guy, okay, he is, what's his name, who did Swingers, owes his whole career to this guy. Oh, as an actor, that Guttenberg came first and kind of lost popularity. But I mean, I would name the 80s, but just like we don't think of the Austro-Hungarian Empire anymore and how big and important it was Guttenbergia. That's what the 80s were in Hollywood.
It's true.
There was nobody in that many franchises.
He was the nice guy next door in the 80s. There was nobody who embodied that more than him. He was like, he was very handsome, but very like boy next door.
And accessible and a little
Jewish.
like, and Jewish.
Well, I mean.
Yeah. Well, no, I think
you have
works
to have
for
that.
him.
Yeah, and you had to have that trait for that part. It would be a different movie if you had if you reversed him with Liam Neeson. It totally wouldn't work.
Like if you had the bad boy playing his part, no.
Yes, it would never work. Yeah.
Well, we should talk about Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, that I just loved his little murder scene, and when he met Beverly D'Angelo, I don't know, I just thought that was like one of my favorite parts.
Introduce him, and he's like, "I'm the lusty boot black."
Yeah, he was good. I did like, he had good comic timing because he switched like that, and he knew he was playing a ghost. He wasn't, he didn't.
The first time we see him, presumably this is what those two ghosts do all the time if they're not that interested in you, is replay how he killed her, and then presumably died himself pretty soon. And then they're like, "Hey, you know what we'll do? We'll wander around and do what we do," which is pretty silly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of gets to the point of what I was going to say overall, is that the movie doesn't really make sense. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Which was a little like irritating to me in the beginning. I was like, this is not going to make any sense. But then it just got so stupid that I was just like enjoying it. It's just like, okay,
they want to save their home. It's like,
okay, that the general theme of them trying to save their home, I get, but is
stupid.
All of the actual plot elements that follow.
There's too many plot elements. Anyone
smart, they're incompatible. They contradict a lot of things in the movie.
Smart would have combined some of those characters. They would have made Steve Guttenberg a parapsychologist that nobody believes in, and they would have like somehow made. I mean, yes, There's too many archetypes.
But
yeah.
But I will say one thing. It ended up working for me because it just turned into like I kind of just turned it into like a variety show. It was like I was watching
It
was like I was watching like the Marx Brothers on stage. It was like a vaudeville.
This is a Saturday Night Live thing.
Yeah, it was like exactly. It was like watching a Saturday Night Live series.
And you're watching like, oh, Liam Neeson is making an appearance in this. It's great. Yeah. And then two guys who can't do Irish accents, who are just going to go, I am going to do that. You can't take my luck.
You know what,
you're not bro? My Lucky Charms.
You know what this movie is actually? It's not Saturday Night Live, but that's close. That reminded me of what it actually is. It's a UCB Theater Harold. You have
that's what it is.
You have what's his name in the beginning? Peter O'Toole does a monologue, which is basically explains what the fuck the whole thing is, and then you have a bunch of acters come and improvise and do comedy improv based on the fucking monologue.
Judy.
What?
I enjoy the movie. It's fun. It's stupid. It's so stupid and cheesy.
It is a fun movie.
I like it.
I would say what was your earliest memory of this movie as a kid?
What is my earliest
memory?
How old were you? I was probably, I can't remember exactly. I want to say the 8 to 12 range. I don't remember. Okay, it came out in 88, or it was made in 88. So I was probably closer to between 10 and 12. So like 6th grade-ish.
So you saw it after it came out, though? Like you didn't see it
I definitely probably, I don't think I would have seen this in theater. I probably wouldn't have been allowed to. So it must have been at the Blockbuster store or the local video store or on TV.
How many
so you saw it in the early 90s, probably?
I don't know, but we watched it a bunch. This was up there with Clue for us, for me.
Yeah. This was like one of the ones you would rent more like repeatedly from the video store.
It was. I had 3 during middle school to high school. It was Clue, High Spirits, and Grease, too.
I only had.
Sorry, guys.
That's actually hilarious. I only had like The Labyrinth. And like every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie and every Bruce Lee movie. Those are the ones that I order on
Lionheart.
Gremlins.
Lionheart and Kickboxer. Those were
Gremlins? Yeah, Lionheart and Kickboxer. I watched those on repeat.
We never had a VCR until 1988 in my house, and we never got cable. So I would have had to see this in the movie theater, or it would have had to get really good reviews. And my mother at some point was like, well, I was enjoying Peter O'Toole, but I can't do my mother today. It's amazing. She was enjoying Peter O'Toole, but then it just got too silly for her. But this is like,
it is
like a Harold, but you know what? Who else is going to enjoy this? If you've ever been to a Ren Fair or a haunted house, a fake haunted house, because I worked at a Ren Fair. And I luckily avoided the Edgar Allan Poe in the mansion because it was torture for the actors. And then I did a Dickens show in there. I was there for most of the year up in Pennsylvania. Call out to Mount Hope, the Pennsylvania Ren Fair. Anyway, I was there, and it was a lot like this. It was, you would have one actor who thought he was the next Laurence Olivier, and he'd be like, let me tell you why Laurence Olivier was never the actor that Peter O'Toole was. I'm going to tell you, but first I need some scotch. Actually, it's not scotch, it's from Ireland, so we call it whiskey.
And that made me, the drinking scenes and all that stuff made the movie more entertaining.
Yeah. I think if you're watching this show, we don't need to go into who Peter O'Toole was. Just go on.
He played himself in this movie.
I think it was written for him.
Yeah.
I suspect it was written for him because
I also loved his mother. Yes. But I was like, is she dead or alive? I'm not really sure, and I don't care.
She's halfway there, right? She's communing with her.
She might be alive. I don't know. Doesn't matter. She's
alive.
Great.
She's communing with her dead husband.
Peter O'Toole was once a beautiful man. Okay, wow. And he always sang his lines because most of the time he was drunk or adhered.
He was drunk in this movie.
He definitely was actually. He had to be actually drinking in this movie.
Yeah, he was really drunk.
He must have, when he tries to hang himself, doing to be or not to be.
Twice.
I thought he must have been doing this since he was 5 years old. You're watching a guy who has done this speech, and he probably said, "I know how to make it funny." Either that, who is like, or I could do it with a dagger to the neck what do you think? And it's like, hey, Peter, how about you just show us different ways you can hang yourself, and we'll tell you different ways we can interrupt the hanging. And it's.
I'll tell you this. With this movie, what the thing the 80s also had were scale models. In the 80s, they didn't have CGI, and the visual effects in this film looks really bad, but they did have some scale models, and those always work. And in the beginning, when they pick up all the guests and drive them to the castle, they were going to scare the tourists by pretending to be ghosts and the banshee and stuff. And to me, it was like the budget is 17 million, and I think that was too much of a budget. If they had a budget of like 7 million, they would have to figure shit out, and might be more creative, but it is kind of stupid, and thank God that's where it was. But they didn't try to make a stupid movie. They tried to make a funny movie. I laughed only once. So there's that. But back to the bus.
Where did you laugh?
I laughed when during the sex scene, when Daryl Hannah said, "No, don't, we shouldn't. Jack, wait, never mind. Don't listen to me, Jack. Don't listen to me." That was the only time that was the only time I laughed. I was like,
say a little to the left?
I laughed once. Yeah. Later on, she's like, "Oh, a little to the left. Yes, Jack." Yeah.
There is a
and it's a goofy, stupid sex scene, which is kind of, it might be appropriate for like kids because, it's not too graphic, but you know what it is and whatever. But when that bus comes in and the banshee and stuff, the guy's driving like this and he's bouncing everywhere. And then he just drives past the front door and goes onto a dock, and then it collapses. And I'm thinking, this is too much. What are you doing here? But it's a scale model and it looks great. Whoever put that scale model together, it really does look like whatever. And
that was the moment in the film where I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so dumb. What is going on?
Because why does he drive by? He's not even drunk or anything. He's just a bad driver, and he just does. There's no reason.
Well, I like how the kids were all excited while it was happening and the parents were freaking out.
Was he?
Well, you remember also that this is a time where stuntmen were still king. Like car chases are still going on, and the Zemeckis period is just starting to begin, and like stuff like that. And so certain things are like, if it works in Hollywood making money, and I say so, the director of the studio, they would do it. So I'm like, it looks like they were like, silly. Just like we need a drive and crack up. And dude, did you also notice?
There's a lot of stunts in this.
There's a lot of water. There's a lot of water stunts.
A lot of water stunts. But the banshee scene when they get their clothes all blown off, right? It turns into Benny Hill. It's like a tribute to the Benny Hill show at that moment. Like all their clothes fly off, and they're all in this sexy lingerie because that's what Irish people
wear. Let me tell you this.
That's when I stopped being like. That's when I was like fully on board with the movie at that moment. I was like, okay, this is just when the real ghosts come. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, cool. This movie does have like kind of
Jennifer Tilly going, I am giving up on sex. Like I was like, there's an archetype that I used to be attracted to, and I was like, that's the perfect cartoon version of that archetype.
I do like Peter Gallagher too. I always liked him. I
think
he's just wonderful.
Greatest eyebrows, sexiest eyebrows of the 80s and 90s.
Great head of hair, nice chin.
Eyebrows, man.
And they had another scale model because there's a lot of pratfalls. There's a lot of water, and it's like the Marx Brothers, but the bellboy fell through because Jennifer Tilly's bed was spinning. Because and then Peter Gallagher gets on there, then the bellboy falls through, and then the bed crashes between floors all the way down like a cartoon. I rewound it.
We need to write a nice letter to Guttenberg and see if we can get him to do a part 2. Because I would bet we would hear stories like they were trying to make a universal ride out of this.
You know what they should do?
Well, I'm curious though, because the director, what is it, Neil Jordan?
Yeah. Neil Jordan. Neil Jordan made good movies before.
But he said this is not the film he shot. He was not allowed to be in the editing room. And so this was now whether or not he's just trying to sort of cover his ass and be like, well, it wasn't my fault. Or it's I was trying to think of like, okay, because it is the way that they're acting even is sort of like that over the top comedic. So I was wondering how would they have been able to really edit it so much that it completely changed the whole film.
I'll tell you.
You guys can tell me.
I'll tell you. They cut sequences in half and put side bits in the front, in the middle, and in the end.
Okay.
Because remember when Steve Guttenberg was coming back and the old lady's like, "You're in love with her, aren't you?" And Steve is like, "Yeah, yeah, but she's dead. I'm alive." Wait a sec, how do you know this? So when they come in, then we cut, and then there's some with the parapsychologist dude, and then other stuff, and then we go back to that scene, and I'm like, why do we cut away? We could have melded.
I suspect one of the reasons for the shallowness of certain characters' through lines are because of the edits too. Like I could see some American executives getting in there and one guy going, "Well, evidently it's funny if you're Irish or English." I was like, "My French wife likes it too." Shut up, Frank. We got some American editors in here and that comedy guy, and keep that Jordan out of here. Well, the shots are beautiful.
Yeah, so this film was made between Ireland, England, and America. And I looked it up. I forget the editor's name, but he was English.
Okay.
So I don't know if that has to do with that. I don't know if there's a difference of humor because Neil Jordan's Irish.
One thing that should be taken into consideration is that that Neil Jordan, he wrote and directed this. So he wrote it. He also wrote and directed The Crying Game, which has a really tight plot line.
It's a brilliant. Crying Game is a masterpiece.
Don't tell anyone the secret. We owe Harvey Weinstein that campaign. Remember that campaign? Don't tell anyone the secret.
Right.
And what was the secret? It's overrated. That was the secret.
That movie's
it may be overrated, but it has a tight plot structure.
We were a generation that just wasn't in to penis on guys who look like girls yet. Now it'd be no big deal, but the
90s
was good too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much. I'm not familiar with much of his other work. I never saw
Vampire, right?
I never saw Breakfast on Pluto, which
never saw that.
Or
I got
the end of the affair, which apparently he.
The End of the Affair is
he wrote, directed, and produced that. So
that is a movie. If you want to see Julianne Moore become a British person to make your palate feel better after watching Daryl Hannah, I don't know what kind of Irish. I think Irish Spring was like, why don't you get her to do the accent for our deodorant bar?
What you notice that Daryl Hannah doesn't do a great Irish accent?
She has one point where I thought she's a really smart girl, but that's not the accent. It's when she said, "He did me to death," which an Irish person would go, "He did me to death," and it wouldn't get the laugh. But he goes, "He did me to death."
Yeah,
like fuck.
I don't think it would have been as good if she had really done the accent well.
She can't.
She's nominated for a Razzie for this.
Yeah,
and had the death scene in the beginning, I thought this is an example of how they go, so how much does Russell want to get into shape for the next Thor? And they're like, it's a lot of money. He hates to get in shape. So we're Disney, we can pay him. We want Russell Crowe as Zeus in the next Thor movie. And I think this one for Daryl Hannah was like, how much are they going to pay me? So if I'm bad, really bad, I don't care. I can go to a trip to Bali.
I don't think it matters because it's such a silly movie. That's why. Who cares if the accents are bad? It's nobody's going to watch this and pick it apart.
It's really
I noticed that her accent.
To her credit, you have to have a great ego to do a bad Irish accent when there are Irish actors around you.
I know, it's insulting.
Most people with a good ear, I suspect she doesn't have a good ear, although she dated a musician who used to beat her. Who was that? Who did she used to date? And he had all those peaceful songs. Someone look that up. Says, here's the thing. For me, I have a good ear. It's very hard. I was like, if I got on Lord of the Rings.
Neil Young?
And someone else before that, Jackson Brown used to be.
Jackson Brown.
Jackson Brown used to be like, I love you more than Daryl.
He used to beat her?
He's like, hey, I'm sensitive. She's like, I'm more sensitive. It's like, no, you're not. If you look at my songs, I'll show you who's more sensitive.
I'm the liberal. Wait, well, I got a question. Steve Guttenberg and Daryl Hannah are outside by the river, by the tree, and they're talking. It's like their first date. And she goes, they have that word tupped. And he's like, tupped. Oh, yes, tupped. And then she uses the word squished. Martin squished. And Steve Guttenberg said, squished. Oh, yeah, he squished. And I'm thinking, what does squished mean? I know what tupped means.
Fart. Squished, I thought was fart.
Yeah, one of them is farting. One of them is belching.
He was burping. He was burping and farting and had warts on his hands.
There are a lot of really good English and Irish phrases in this. I want to say that they give a speech of all the fairies and monsters that haunt the house to Peter O'Toole, and he goes, and of course, the fuka. Now, the origin of the word fuck comes from puck, which became fuka. Puck became fuka, or fuka became puck, and because they fucked with you, it means fuck, and he knows that because it's Celtic and it's Peter O'Toole. And then he also has a thing, he goes, it's a dirty trilogy between a muckraker, a gobshite, and a whore's mount.
I had to put on the subtitles for him, for his speech. Like, what is he saying?
You, sir, Sean Barons, are a whore's mount.
And this sums up why I just love this movie. We can talk about it forever.
Irish?
He's Irish.
Yeah, and so is his drinking buddy,
Richard Harris.
Richard Harris. They're both Irish.
They are both Irish, but to be in the English theater, you weren't going to be playing Hamlet going, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it's just nobler in the mind. No, they're like, yeah.
To be or not to be.
Yeah, Peter O'Toole kind of had a British accent, more British than Richard Harris, right?
They came from different parts, and there are many Irish accents. I know that Richard Harris is
Peter O'Toole was born in England.
Okay, and Richard Harris was upper class Limerick. He was not lower class Irish like people to think he was. He was an upper class guy from, granted, Limerick, and he did suffer a lot of prejudice. Peter O'Toole, hold on, what's his
his mom was, Peter O'Toole's mom was Scottish, and his dad was Irish.
And he was born in
Leeds. Yeah.
West Riding of Yorkshire, England is where I was born.
Okay. Jesus. I used to live near the Rent Fair. Oh my God.
What was that like?
Those are our people.
No, it wasn't fun.
You should have joined it, Sean.
No, because they all talk like how Seth was talking.
No, you should have been there in armor with a broadsword.
All day with that.
You know what Sean would have been great at? Sean would have been great. I was dumb.
It would be so great to watch.
What the fuck are you saying? I don't even know what they're saying.
I was in a
I tried to order a beer from one of those dudes. His British accent was so bad. I'm like, what? And then he did like this. Like I was the diminished one.
Was this somewhere out in the Pines in New Jersey or something?
Greenwood Lake, New York.
We will take you to the New York Ren Fair. I was at the Pennsylvania Ren Fair.
I've been there. I lived there. I lived.
Take me to the New York Ren Fair. I want to go.
I'm picturing like a short film where you just take Sean as Sean.
It's not what you think.
You put him in like a bar with
let me tell you, in the 90s, you could still do this. People would pay $12 for a turkey leg, and they're the biggest friggin' turkey legs ever. And I'd go, "Can I see your turkey leg?" Actually, I was digger, so I was like, "Can I see your turkey leg, sir?" And I'm the grave digger, and I haven't eaten all day, so they give me the turkey leg, and I go, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Do you still want it?" And they're like, "No." It's like, "Thanks." And I'd run away with her. Or I'd like, "Can I see a turkey leg?" And then I'd run and I'd hit another Ren Fair actor repeatedly with it. And give it. And people loved it.
I'm interrupting. Okay, so one last thing I want to say about High Spirits is that to me, it seemed like Faulty Towers. Now, the blonde lady who was married to the parapsychologist, her name is Connie Booth. And if you know your Faulty Towers, she was the younger blonde in Faulty Towers, and she did some of the writing too. She was married to John Cleese, and they wrote it together. So there's that. I didn't think that. I mean, I think Let's Get Connie Booth or whatever, and she said, yeah, they probably just offered it to her because it was a lot like Faulty Towers, the Halloween episode. this whole movie. So I thought that was cool, and there was a lot of water sports, and there were some scary parts, but especially when the kid got brought in by the tentacles, and then he became the cardboard display of the thing, and they got him back out.
What about the
weird?
What about the ghost nuns that push
the
priest into the water? And first he thinks it's because God wants him to be chaste, and then they push the chick into the water with him because it's God really wants him to get it on with this chick.
Oh, there's a great line about the supernatural in here. Is this before or after? This is after Ghostbusters, right?
I think so. Wasn't Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters really establishes ectoplasm, right? And there's a line in this movie, and I think it's a tribute to the Ten Commandments of "Where's your Messiah now?" It's "Where's your ectoplasm now?"
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Wait, who said that?
One of the
Peter
guys.
O'Toole.
Okay.
Peter O'Toole says it to the parapsychologist, but they had a whale fin. They had tentacles. They had a lot of water scenes, and this was shot on a set. And water scenes aren't cheap to film. They had a lot of that stuff.
And then they had a fake water scene with the stage. How weird was that? They do a stage production, with an ocean on the stage, and then the ghosts come, and they do a whole other performance thing there. Where
it doesn't make any sense. Peter Gallagher falls in the pond.
Yeah,
there's a lot of water stuff.
I have a question. It's fun with this movie. You can play it with this movie.
Wait, one last thing. They also had a jib. They had a jib, and they used that a lot. My point is that this budget doesn't need to be. That's why it was 17 million. You could work all that stuff out, and you drop below, and you might make a profit.
You know why we hired you? You know why we hired you? Because we like the cut of your jib. That's why we like the cut of your jib. The jib is a sail, and when it's got a cut in it, it's blowing a certain way.
No, but meaning they had a harness. There's a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So has anyone had a haunted house experience? Gone to a haunted house or had a
one
haunted
time
house?
I turned around and I went back.
No, I hate that shit.
What else?
People jumping out of the dark at me.
I turned around and I left because I knew there was somebody there.
I worked at a haunted house and I watched an actor get punched because people were going through the haunted house like this. But I actually meant, does anyone have any real ghost stories of encounters with ghosts?
No.
I do, but it's nothing crazy.
Minor shit.
Minor.
I believe in it. I mean, I think it's probably a real phenomenon.
I've
had a lot of secondhand experiences.
I've scared the crap out of people with ghost stories or setups. After my dad died, my cousins' little kids, and one of them was 4, I think. And I went in and they slept over at my sister's house and they were going to stay another night. And I came in, I was like, hey man, I didn't get to, it was my dad. I'm Uncle Seth. And how'd you guys sleep last night? And they're like, oh, great, Uncle Seth. That was, no problem. I was like, okay, cool.
Sean, what are you doing?
You didn't hear anything?
It looks like Manson right now. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm trying to look like Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
And I said, some people kind of feel a presence.
All right. I think we need to start wrapping it up, guys.
All right.
Any go on talking about this movie forever, but anyone closing arguments? And then Abram, I think you're up. Right?
Yeah, I'm up. I'll give my closing arguments first, and then you guys can go. And then I'll pitch my next delightful film for you guys. Okay. Yeah, I think the film is fun. If it didn't have so many graphic scenes that are maybe a little too much for kids, I would say it would be a great kids movie because it's just dumb and fun. But it's probably not appropriate for under 12 or 13. I don't know.
Depends how much of a pussy your kid is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I would say 10. Under 10 is probably not.
Yeah, under 10. I think if you're grooming your kid to like horror, this is a good one. This is a good bridge.
Yeah, it's yeah. And
yeah.
I think Peter O'Toole carries the film because he's the beginning and he's the opening, and you're just kind of this is just going to be insane. And it's just kind of a crazy film that makes enough sense that you don't get like bored, but it doesn't completely make sense. It's really but it's entertaining. Some of the there's some laugh out loud moments in it, and also just to get this cast of people that you probably like to this day, like these people went on to do a lot of them went on to do some amazing things. A lot of them had already done amazing things. Like Peter O'Toole was like Lawrence of Arabia, and you to throw all these like great actors together in a dumb film, it's interesting just for that. So that's what I would say. If you want to see like a really weird, like kind of crazy fantasy movie with all these like legendary actors in it, I mean, I can't think of a better example of that than this.
I mean, Clash of the Titans would probably be the big one of my generation.
Sure.
Like the introduction, or Time Bandits.
Time Bandits, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Anyway, so by the way, they're remaking Time Bandits. I'll talk about that another time. I think this is a really fun, bad movie. And I think you can also learn a lot from this movie because she deserved that Razzie. Because it's almost like she made that, like, what's his character's name? Jack? Yeah. Is that his name? Mm-hmm. He goes like this because it's Jack, be nimble, Jack, be quick. He's like generic Jack, right? Everyone has to be Jackie, quick knees, Jack jumped over the candles, Jack in the pulpit. So Jack, she goes like this. Don't leave me, Jack. And she does that with her arms. Now, every kid knows it's don't leave me, Jack. Like everyone knows it. Stretch your body toward him. She's like, don't leave me, Jack. It's like they're basically said, we don't know what the special effect is, Daryl, so just do something here. And she's good enough actress to like know what her shot was. It was a full body shot. She was doing close-up work and full body shots. It's great. There was still something sexy about her, and I never find her as sexy.
The cleavage.
She
had a nice shimmer gray.
Was that it? And I guess the dopey period hair.
Oh, and the see-through legs. She's got long legs.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch and see how different styles of acting don't meld with each other in here. No, they don't. You got a lot going on. Different types of, is this a children's film? Is this a beautiful adult period? Are we making fun of a period? Is he supposed to be like Vincent Price? And all those Vincent, why don't you come to my house? I'm Vincent Price. I would,
So in closing, I do agree with Seth because they try to mix Jewish comedy, British comedy together. It just didn't work.
Excuse me,
it
Sean,
was like a sitcom.
What is Jewish comedy? What is Jewish comedy?
Arrested Development is Jewish comedy. Faulty Towers is British comedy.
Comedy is Jewish.
Such good actors.
It's all Jewish.
Okay, great.
We run the world.
So there's that. They tried to mix the two. It didn't work. It's like this movie's like a sitcom without an audience. I did like Beverly D'Angelo, and you saw her boobs in National Lampoon's Vacation, and I always respected her for that.
There was a
pratfall.
They have two kids together.
There was a pratfall every 7 minutes. That's Jewish comedy, but they try to do it in a British style.
I never saw pratfall in Woody Allen film, but that's okay.
No, it is. Marx Brothers.
That's
only one. That's only one brand. We have that. We own all.
They wrote the
brands.
book. Okay. In this movie, there was too much screaming in the beginning with the busting. If they measured the screaming in a way, and you can do it, it would have been better because there's a lot of screaming, and I'm like if they did it in a way. Hugh Jackman did a movie called Van Helsing, and in that movie there was a Frankenstein character, and that guy was an opera singer because he did a lot of screaming, and they did it in a way where he was like, oh, and that worked. And okay, so there's that. Peter O'Toole did his own stunts. He stumbled around a bunch. He fell on the floor. He was doing his own stunts. God bless his heart, because he was drunk.
Sean,
he was drunk.
I had some lubrication with those stunts.
That's why he didn't get hurt.
Nothing could get hurt. And I even went to a meeting afterwards, and they advised me to finish the film no matter what you do. You can always do service, at least as I remember.
Oh, please. Okay. Oh, God. all day with that stuff. You don't want to live near the Ren Fair. All right.
Michael Caine said he remembers there was a. Can I tell the Michael Caine Peter O'Toole story about drinking and the weekend?
Okay. Yes. 30 seconds.
Okay, so there's a place like Times Square, Piccadilly Circus. Homeless people beg for coins, and then they buy cheese sandwiches and like little boxes of milk or like the canisters, whatever they had. Peter O'Toole was in the show. He's being understudied by Michael Caine. They remember starting drinking after the show. They went to get, they went and got the breakfast sandwiches there. They said to them, don't ever come back. And he was like, now this was quite the little shack that sold these 5 cents little cheese sandwiches on white bread with a thing of milk to homeless people. He's like, I can't imagine what Peter and I did. And I can't remember to get kicked out of a place like that.
And they didn't know what they did because they went back the next day, right?
They have so many stories like that.
Anthony Hopkins goes, I remember drinking in a van with O'Toole, and that's all I remember. The whole story.
Judy, what are your closing? Judy,
I don't really have any closing arguments. I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film probably as much as a grown woman that I did as a, I don't know, teen or a preteen, I'll say preteen.
Yeah.
Differently. It was I saw it, I wouldn't say I would have described it as cheesy as a preteen. I just liked the movie. I thought it was fun and exciting in a way, right? Because I think it was like on that edge of like there's sexy and there's like some horror, but it wasn't like really scary and it wasn't like really sexy. So it was like, okay, if you're like stepping your toe in. As an adult, I was like, this is super cheesy, but it's fun. And I'll just also say, I used to work at Sleep No More in the city. And this would be a really fun, like I would totally go stay in this castle for like a night and have like these actors like try. Yeah. It would be a total fun. Like I would go in and like talk to the drunk mom. Like I would just be like, tell me about yourself, and have the actor improvise. Seth would probably love to work there. You could just run around talking in different accents and say you're the same person.
Let's get a grant for an interactive show, guys, and let's produce an interactive show on Halloween. And people can come. It's for adults, right?
I think Seth should play the mom.
I'll be the mom.
Put some makeup on you.
And I'll be Guttenberg. I'll shave.
I miss my husband so
I'll shave
much.
if I can be Steve Guttenberg, please.
Yeah,
please, just once.
Yeah, you can be Steve Guttenberg. You look the most.
No, Steve.
Cool.
Like, please, Academy series.
And we can hire someone. They don't have a priest, but there's a visiting rabbi to the haunted house that night, and he's like, "What should I know? I don't do the. Just came to Ireland for a good time."
All right, Abram, what's in store for us for the next episode?
I've got our first foreign language film.
Oh.
Yeah, Sean, fuck you. You're gonna watch it with the subtitles and you're gonna love every minute of it.
One doesn't understand films in American, so this is gonna be very challenging.
If there's a dubbed version, I'm gonna watch the dubbed version.
No,
you have to do it. You have to turn them on your device. Okay. This film is called Freak Out. I just saw it recently for the first time. I have an Israeli streaming service called Izzy that has honestly like it's like Israeli. It's okay. This is what it is. It's called Izzy, Izzy, and it's basically like a low budget Netflix of Israeli television and films targeted to like non-Israeli diaspora Jewish audiences. So it's like this was designed. It was a kid who this kid basically, I guess he's an American, but he made Aliyah, like he moved to Israel, and he wanted like American Jews to get a sense of like what the everyday TV and film was like, not just the big hits like Fauda and the stuff that you get on Netflix. So he created this streaming account. And there's a lot of weird, obscure shit. So it's like a minefield of obscure films and television. But I saw this one film. It really completely blew my mind on a number of levels. It seems to be really low budget. It's a horror movie. It's
cool.
It's freaking hilarious. I'll read you the plot summary. It's called Freak Out 2015. The
You should see the poster. The poster's even funny.
Yeah, it's it's a hilarious. It's a fucking hilarious movie. It is a hilarious movie. It's honestly up there in like one of my favorite films I've ever seen. Matan, okay, so Matan, a soldier in the IDF, travels with 3 soldiers whom he doesn't know to a base in the north of Israel. Vulnerable and homesick, Matan becomes an easy target for his peers who start playing pranks on him. However, it is not long before strange and inexplicable things begin to happen in the lonely base, and the group realize the need to watch their own backs. As the week progresses, their worries intensify, and the soldiers begin to question whether they will make it out of this experience alive. Yeah.
2015.
Oh, hold on. I clicked the wrong freak out to look at
this is it.
Yes.
Sorry, my phone broke.
I'm not sure. That's a different poster than I've seen.
Boaz Armani?
Yeah, that's right. That's the director.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And I found him on Instagram. I might reach out to him and see if he'd be down to like talk about it with us.
Wait, is it 2017 or 2015?
2015.
And you can stream it. I believe you can stream it on Tubi.
Or
you can,
on Izzy. You can
or
stream
on
it on
Izzy.
Izzy.
If you have Izzy, you can stream it on Izzy.
I have it on it says 2017 here.
Show me the picture. Show me the image so I could. Okay,
That's
maybe
not-
it was at another release in 2017. I don't know.
Is that on Netflix?
On IMDb, it says 2015.
All right.
And on that poster I just saw was 2015.
Whatever. Just go to Tubi TV.
This is Freak Out 2015.
That's a different movie.
That's a completely different movie.
Yeah, Freak Out.
And it might be a mistake. IMDb might have crossed the dates. I don't know, man.
No, it's 2 words.
This is the most obscure. Yeah, it's 2 words, and this is the most obscure film I think we've ever done. So,
Okay.
at least for American audience. But if you go to, I think you can rent it on Amazon. Or I think you may be able to stream it on Tubi, but you can definitely rent it on Amazon. Or stream it on Izzy if you have Izzy. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this film as much as I did.
Yeah, man. Are we still
Until next time.
Until next week.
Oh, and don't forget to smash the subscribe button.
Yeah, subscribe, click the like button, and engage with us. Comment, tell us how much you love this show or dislike it. I don't care. Hit the dislike button, hit the like button. Just engage with us.
Please send all the hate. But
Yeah.
send it through the comment section.
Yeah, send it to the comment
We
section.
don't
love
care.
it.
We drink 2 bottles of vodka while we decide what we think before we comment back on you.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get we're probably gonna get demonetized just for me wearing this T-shirt.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Nice. Saska sisters. Let's do it.
Oh, dude,